Welcome back to the channel, everyone. My name is Alexander Howell, and one of the most frustrating processes that you can deal with when you are traveling to a foreign country is literally the moment that you get there, and that is getting through customs. And now, Mexico and Portugal and Italy and Costa Rica, all the places that I've traveled have been very different in the way that they handle customs. So today we're really going to focus on Mexico. I'm going to give you a little bit of maybe Puerto Vallarta, maybe Cancun, but definitely focusing on Merida, which is where my family and I have a home. So we're going to discuss the immigration process, help you not get too freaked out, and it's going to start now. Now, as I said in the intro, this is strictly having to do with my experiences. If you've had different experiences, please feel free to comment down below. And while we're talking about commenting, please feel free to like and subscribe to this channel, hit that notification bell, and that will let you know anytime that one of these videos goes live or I end up live streaming. I also have all of my social contacts down below. Pretty much anywhere you go, Instagram, Twitter, Twitch, you can find me at Alexander from KC as in Kansas City. So at Alexander from KC. And if you end up at the end of this having a few more questions, send me an email, alexander@alexanderhowell.com, and my phone number is 816-727-7740. If you want to send me a text on that, that'd be great. So getting back to the first part of this video, I do want to make sure that we have a few caveats. One, it is about my experiences. Two, it is exactly what we talked about, that this is really about Mexico, even though I've been through different situations, those might get brought in too. And three, this is not for certain individuals. It is really just for recreational travelers. So this doesn't include people who are traveling for business, people who are students, government liaisons, etc. This is strictly my experiences going through customs, and I have a very good familiarity with the airport in question. Now, the first things first, and this really shouldn't be first, but let's just go ahead and say it. If you are traveling to a foreign country, you need to get your passport.
Oh, really?
Really? Now, this is a very obvious thing to do. You just go to state.gov. And at that website, you will find all the forms necessary and all the requirements necessary to submit information to the government, to the State Department of the United States of America. If you're from there, if you're in Canada or somewhere else, it's a very different thing. But if you're from the United States of America, you will find all the information needed for what you need to submit to the State Department, and they will send you a passport. It's not a complicated process. It's just gathering a few bits of information, and boom, you are done. Now, if you find yourself needing to travel immediately, it gets a bit more complicated. My wife and I just traveled to Mexico via Cancun to Isla Mujeres. Even though we had applied for her passport weeks and weeks and weeks ahead of time and expedited it, we ended up being late for it. So she had to go to Hot Springs, Arkansas directly, bring all of her information, show that she was there, got a passport. We met in Cancun. We actually were planning on meeting in Houston, but that's a whole other thing. But if you don't want to have to travel to go somewhere to get your passport physically, go to travel.state.gov. All the information's there. Now, this is the real first steps, and this part isn't complicated. Once you're on the plane heading to Mexico, the first place that you touch down, that's where you're going to go through this customs process. Once you're in the U.S., not a big deal. But when you're on your way to Mexico, that is when this process is going to start. And you are going to fill out what is called the Multiple Migratory Form, or the FMM. I know it seems reversed, that's all right. Now, on some flights, or many flights, you're going to have this passed out to you on the plane. Sometimes it is when you land. That's slightly more annoying, but it's a very simple form, and it is one per traveler. So if you're traveling with you, your spouse, and your 2 kids, you'll need 4 forms, and each of you are going to fill this out. Basically, this form is a 2-parter form, but it's the same kind of mirrored information. You're going to fill out all your information on top: first, last name, passport number, where you're traveling, what information you have, your flight number, vessel number, so on and so forth. You're going to have all that information, and then you're basically going to reprint that information on the second piece, because that's what they're going to tear off and keep in your passport. Why am I explaining this a little bit too fast? Because you want to keep that smaller form that's in your passport the entire time you are traveling. Do not lose your passport. Do not lose that form, because that form is necessary when you come back. When you're actually in the airport trying to leave for the United States, they're going to call you up, ask for your passport and that form. That's what's going to be able to get you out. So always hold on to every bit of paperwork that you have, whether it's going through customs or like our last flight from Cancun. Now, the one positive about this is if you don't want to fill out that form in line or on the plane trying to deal with all of that, there is an opportunity for you to fill it out actually before the flight begins. So that way you're not looking up information last minute. You can print it out, keep it with you, and boom, you've got it solid, good to go before you even get to the airport on your way to paradise. And just like the other one, even if you print that form off, you're gonna wanna keep that with you, because they're going to ask for it when you leave. Now, there is a caveat to this, and this is actually the last time that we just got back from Cancun, which by the time of recording is about 1 week ago. When it comes out, who knows when. But about a week ago, we ended up going to Cancun for a few days, and it was absolutely amazing. But when we went through the immigration process, we needed to present our passport only to slide it in and have it be read by electronics via a computer. And then we walked into a booth, they took a picture of us, they printed out the form, and we just took it. There was no need to do it online, there was no need to fill out a form. We did have to keep that receipt, but nothing else. So it was a really simple, really easy process to get through. But families, everybody else, they had to go to a different side. It was just me and my wife, 2 adults traveling, so we didn't need to do anything but go through that booth. I do not think Merida has that yet, but it's something to keep in mind as you go forward. So just like any video, keep up to date. That's a little caveat in there for you. Now next is the customs form, and this one is normally just a one-sheeter. It's very simple, and we actually didn't have to fill that one out either on this last trip to Cancun, but Merida, the last time we went, we still did. It's a 1 form per family, so between my wife and myself and our 2 kids, we had 1 form to fill out. And this is the form that says, are you bringing any meats into the country, any vegetables into the country? Are you bringing amounts over $10,000 in cash into the country? All of the questions that you're kind of used to being asked at customs at one point or another, this is the form where you fill that out. Now this is also one that you cannot fill out before the flight. They will hand it to you either in the airport, or our experience has been that they will hand it to you on the plane. So with this form, there is no need to keep it. So basically what's going to happen, actually, let's start this out first. Do not lie about anything on this form. When I go in and I have anything that I need to mark, I always mark it. Now, most of the time, it's straight no's through the board. I don't have meat, I don't have vegetables, I didn't bring tobacco, I didn't do this, I didn't do that, and I'm not carrying any cash over $10,000. I've never said that. But it is important to know that you need to fill this out, because what's going to happen is you're going to hold on to that form, and once you get past customs, so your passport gets checked, your family's passports get checked, you go through, and then you either grab your bags, all of your unchecked items, you're going to go through another line. So in Merida, you get off the plane, get to customs, show all the information, they stamp your passport, you collect your check bags as well as the stuff that you have on you, and then you get into another line. Now this line is a really interesting one because it kind of loops around. Normally it gets a little backed up, but you hit a little red button, and that red button will either turn on a red marker or a green marker. You're going to hand your customs form, you're going to hit that button, they're going to keep the customs form, and if it's green, congratulations. You just walk out the door with all of your stuff, you're completely fine. But if it hits red, like it's done for me the last 2 times I've been to Merida, that basically means that they're going to check your bags. So you're going to put them on a small conveyor belt. It's going to check every single bag you have. Backpack, purse, check bags, everything. It's going to check all of them. It's going to scan through that, and then, depending on the airport, or depending even on the terminal, they may check a few of your bags, or they may check all of them. Our line last time was ludicrously long, simply because the red came up so often that they were checking everyone's bags. And when you're a family like mine who had just moved down there, and you have 4 bags stuffed full of stuff on top of your carry-ons, but they ended up opening all of our bags, sifting through them, checking them. I had brought cigars down. I'd made mention of that. I had electronics down. They were just for us, so there was no customs duties or anything like that necessary, because it was literally just for our house. I wasn't selling them. But they looked through every single thing. So this is why I say, don't lie on your forms. Just admit what you got. Don't bring anything bad, obviously. But just say it, and you get through it just fine. And once they check everything, as long as everything checks out, they're going to close up your bags. You're going to get it. And again, you're off and running. And that's really it. When you go through customs, it's a really simple process that just takes time, but it can be a little mentally draining. So let's go through it real quick in the presence of somebody who is just getting off the plane. So you're on the plane, you've got your forms filled out. Get off the plane, and you and 200 and plus of your closest friends that were on that plane end up going into the line. And again, we're going to use Merida Airport. You get into the line, you've got your forms, you've got your stuff, you're going to get in a long snaked line. Once you're there, you're just going to wait. Hopefully the kids are good. I always say bribe kids in any way possible. This is a great time to hold off on the cookies and give it to them right then, because it's going to make this line so much easier for you, for them, and for everybody around you. Once you get to the front of the line, you're going to get called up by one of the immigration officials. Normally they're in a small booth. They have a computer in front of them, a little camera, something like that. They're going to ask for your passports, all the information that you filled out, except for that immigration form, which goes later. You hand it to them. They make sure everybody looks like themselves in the pictures and everything like that. They'll tear off the top form, keep it, they put the bottom form into your passport, or if you already have it, they just put the whole thing in your passport. You get your passports back, you've got your kids, yourself, your spouse, everybody, and you walk through that line. The next thing you're going to do is collect your checked luggage. There's actually a turnstile in there, so you're going to go, or turnstile. Turnbuckle's the wrestling thing, turnstile's the, you know what I'm saying, on the luggage carrier thingy. So you're going to collect your checked bags from there, you're going to take those checked bags, and you're going to sit in line for what feels like quite some time. Now the positive is that there is a restroom, so if you need to use the restroom, you probably got a little time. Negative is, do not take out your cell phones. There are pictures all over the place that say that you should not take your cell phones out. And the reason for this is it's a security thing. They don't want you to send what immigration looks like to everybody that you know. So I don't have any pictures because I'm not taking pictures when I'm going through that, because I probably would get a stern talking to at the least. Once you go through that line, you hit the button. If it's green, you leave. If it's red, you put your stuff through the x-ray machine. They check it, they give it back to you, and you're gone. Basically, you'll walk through the airport. They have a couple of different areas for you to go. Normally, this is transportation. So if you're somewhere where there's mass transit, you'll see the signs everywhere. If you're somewhere like Merida, where it's pretty much cabs or family, they're gonna be right at the end of the line. Again, restrooms on the other side too, just in case you're wondering if there are. But you go through that, you get into your cab, and you go to your destination. And that's pretty much it. That's the process. It takes far longer than what I just described, not just walking down the hallway, not just in immigration, not just on the other side, but just getting through it can be a drain on your patience. But remember, don't let it ruin your trip. This is about an hour to an hour and a half long process that is annoying, yes, but not crazy. A few small things to remember. Each person gets an FMM form, the multiple migratory form, and one family per customs form. So if you're married with 2 kids, you get 1 customs, 4 FMMs. If you're single and you're traveling with your parents, but you're over 18, then you're going to get a customs and an FMM. They're going to get a customs and an FMM. Another thing that I've seen are people that get really freaked out at the immigration part where they're asking for your passport and information. The questions that they're asking are questions that every single person gets asked. So if they ask you, why are you traveling, where are you traveling, things like that, and it feels like you're being interrogated a little bit, don't be worried about it at all. They're asking the same questions that they would of anybody else. It's basically just a fail-safe to see if somebody's worried, doesn't know, so on and so forth. I answer it every single time, and normally just with a smile on my face. They click the thing down, I get my stamp, and I walk right through. Speaking of that stamp, I will tell you without question, one of the things you absolutely need to do is make sure that your passport gets stamped or you get a receipt of some sort. We went to Italy one year, and because it was the EU, they were pretty lackadaisical on how they were stamping passports. We didn't get ours stamped in Italy. So when we went to Austria, which was basically just a puddle jumper flight, we flew to Austria, then flew to the United States. When we flew to Austria, we got screamed at by their immigration officials because they had no proof that we hadn't gone to Italy because they never stamped our passport. Now we had every other bit of information, including thousands of pictures from being there, but because they hadn't stamped our passport, it was a big deal. Once they realized that there were a bunch of people in line that had the same issue, they let us go. But it was kind of a crazy thing for a bit. So even if you have to ask them, make sure you stamp your passport or you get that little receipt on the other side of the issue. Another small note, again, this is always different. In Lisbon, going through customs with our bags took forever. Once we got through that, the bag check took no time. Merida normally takes a long time on each side, but it is at least an efficient process so you kind of know what you're getting. Cancun has actually been incredible. They will check if you have checked bags, a lot of times they will check them behind the scenes so you don't have to go through the process that you do in Merida. And like I said this last time, if you're traveling as an individual, an adult with no kids, you can just kind of go through this booth and it is a very quick process. So just be prepared for things to be a little bit different. There are normally people everywhere that will answer any questions that you have, but just follow through. Normally you'll see residents, something like that. If you're not a resident, if you're not a citizen of that country, don't go there. Go to where everybody else is going. Also, if you're a parent, screens and snacks are awesome. This is the one time that you should absolutely spoil your children, not just for your sanity because you're trying to figure everything else out, but for theirs because they're little and they have no idea what's going on. And for the other people in line, it just keeps everybody happy. I wish they sold drinks when you're going through that, so at least you could have a drink, but then I'm sure there'd be other issues there too. My last and simplest piece of advice for this entire thing is get a seat towards the front of the aircraft if you can. Why do I say that? The main reason is simply time. When you are going through this wonderful process, you're going to realize that being towards the front is absolutely critical on getting off the plane, one, but two, into the customs lines at the front as close as you can. There may be a plane in front of you, but you'll still have 200 people behind you that were on your flight. So the closest you can get to the front is better. Sometimes you will get kind of screwed over by the luggage delivery. It'll be late even though you're at the front of the plane, so everybody kind of goes ahead of you. That happens very rarely though. By the time everybody gets through, normally all the luggage is available. So last piece of advice, try to get the seat closest to the front of the plane. And that's it, guys. The immigration and customs process is not complicated, but it can be kind of frazzling. If you've been traveling all day long, you've got kids or you don't have kids, but like me with this last trip, my flight was delayed 3 hours, had to switch airlines, not see my wife until Cancun. We'd planned on all kinds of things. The last few days were heck, not just there, but then to have the 3-hour delay in the airport, awful. But we ended up getting through, not having that many issues, and we were there and in paradise in no time at all. But just remember, even though it's stressful, it can be easier. Bring everything that you might need. Thank you all so much for watching this. And again, the reason that I talk about Merida Airport more than any other is because that's where we travel most of the time because we do have a home there. If you'd like to see any videos discussing that, the area, the state of Yucatan, the Yucatan Peninsula in general, or any of our travels that we've had so far, please feel free to like and subscribe to this channel. Hit that notification bell. That'll let you know anytime that I go live or one of these videos goes live. All of my social links at Alexander from KC, as in Kansas City, so Alexander from KC. Instagram is kind of my main thing, so feel free to hit me up, Instagram.com/Alexander from KC. There's also my email that I talked about at the very front of this, Alexander@alexanderhowell.com. And if you have any questions, text me 816-727-7740. That information also is all down below. So thank you so much for watching this. I really appreciate it. I know it was kind of a long video. I tried to make it as quick as possible by talking at about 1,000,000 miles an hour, up to and including being a part of our Facebook group, facebook.com/group/travel, the number 2 Merida. It's been awesome to get to know all of you guys. And as always, peace.